Episode 38.
Attack now.
The most difficult and critical step of the one-pull strategy was actually pulled off by this guy with no class. But wiping out this whole mob in one go was no easy feat. There was no way two mages could clear them all with just one spell each. Liming Dianguang and Yunggui didn't dare delay. One unleashed a blazing impact, the other a blizzard. Though both spells were of the same level, they belonged to different elemental schools, each with its own distinct effect. Fire magic is all about explosive power. The blazing impact ignited a fiery magic circle right beneath the goblin's feet. With a sudden whoosh, a pillar of flame erupted from the ground, soaring over 3 meters high. The goblins were struck, suddenly launched into the air, screaming and tumbling in the fiery blast. But this skill wasn't a firework. It flared up in a single brief column of flame and vanished in an instant. As the goblins were about to crash to the ground, Yungui's blizzard descended with a furious roar. Hailstones and snowflakes, each the size of a steamed bun, pelted down upon the goblins without mercy. Flame burst is a single explosive hit, while blizzard lasts for 4 seconds, striking once per second on average. In terms of total damage, blizzard comes out on top, but for instant burst, flame burst is clearly the stronger choice. That's the defining trait of the ice and fire elements.
Chibi.
Ye Shu shouted. Jiyue Qingcheng was ready. She hurled the lure doll right into the heart of the monster pack. This chibi is like a doll. It taunts monsters within a 2-meter radius, forcing them to focus their aggro on it, of course. But these aren't unconditional. First, the Shululu's level can't be lower than the monsters. Second, a regular Shululu is useless against elite bosses, lords and the like. You need the mechanic's other passive skill, Shululu Improvement, to handle those, and you have to apply it case by case. Jiyue Qingcheng's level wasn't high enough to learn the improved version yet, but his standard charming doll leveled with him, so its rank was sufficient. The moment it was thrown, every goblin turned and charged straight for the Shululu.
It'll only hold them for a moment.
The decoy's effect lasts a super long time, a full 20 seconds, Jiyue Qingcheng shouted urgently after throwing it. But the problem is that little doll doesn't have much HP. Once the monsters get aggro, they're not just going to stand around and watch, they're going to attack it. With so many goblins, the chibi will be smashed to pieces in seconds. Thunder and Lightning's flame impact and Cloud Turtle's blizzard of course had cooldowns, 6 seconds for one, 8 for the other. The two of them were frantically hurling their single target spells, but against such a massive horde of goblins they were clearly overwhelmed. Enough, Ye Shu said, sending Lord Grimm charging forward. Under the Shululu's effect, the goblins fell into perfect formation. The melee fighters swarmed around the Shululu, while the ranged attackers had already begun to bombard the Shululu. The Shululu lasted barely a second before it was smashed to pieces. But Lord Grimm had already charged back into their midst. His spear vanished, replaced by tonfas in each hand. He grabbed a goblin, pivoted, and executed a backdrop. The shockwave rippled out, flattening a neat row of goblins.
The Blade Master readied a silver light blade dropped. Get up and release.
Blue River, who hadn't had a chance to act yet, was startled by the command. But he recovered instantly, gripping his light sword Yanri, and rushing forward. As all the goblins rose in unison, Blue River was already airborne. Spotting the center of the horde, he thrust his sword forward with both hands, riding it like a flying blade as he plunged into the heart of the monster pack. The Blade Master skill, Silver Light Drop Blade. The higher the jump, the greater its power, and the wider the shockwave it unleashes. True to his reputation as one of the Blue Brook Guild's top 5 experts, Blue River instantly grasped Ye Shu's intent the moment the command was given. That silver light falling blade was executed to perfection. The shockwave rippled outward, and the mobs that had just clambered to their feet were once again knocked flat in unison. He chained area attacks, not for high damage, but to keep the gathered mobs pinned down and unable to rise and attack. But even Backdrop and Silver Light Blade have cooldowns. Relying on just these two skills to swap between won't be enough to maintain full control. Asura Slash has an even longer cooldown, 30 seconds. We can't rely on it in the short term.
What other AoE skills does this guy have?
That was Blue River's thought. He racked his brain, trying to recall all the pre-job change skills across every class. What else was there, like Backdrop or Silver Light Falling Blade? Then he heard the next command.
Shadow Cloak, right?
Blue River suddenly understood. He saw Zhiyue Qingcheng step forward and wave a hand. A violet-black cloak flew from his sleeve, whooshing out to encircle the horde of goblins. With a sharp pull, the cloak constricted, and the goblins shrieked as they were squeezed into a tight ball. They toppled over in unison.
That should be just about enough time for the cooldowns.
Blue River was calculating his skill cooldowns when he heard the next command.
Rising Flame.
The cooldown for Blazing Impact ended right on cue. Lei Ming Dianguang gave the order, and as the cast bar finished, the goblins were just getting back on their feet. A pillar of fire erupted, sending the goblins tumbling through the air before they crashed back down. Another 2 seconds passed. Only then did Blue River realize that even this counted as a crowd control skill. A true master. An absolute master, able to utilize the inherent traits of skills not designed for crowd control to achieve the same effect, pulling off a one-wave clear in a dungeon of the same level.
That's just incredible.
Blue River knew that at this point, as long as no one made a mistake, this one-wave push was as good as done. Blue River understood, and so did the others. With a sense of awe, they followed Yeshu's commands, unleashing skill after skill. The goblins struggled, rising and falling, until the ground was littered with a chaotic mess of loot. The 4 of them finally snapped out of it. Over 20 goblins had actually been wiped out in a single wave, a genuine miracle. They needed to hurry. But the other guy didn't seem to think it was anything special at all. With a shout, he was already pressing forward. Blue River and the other 3 hurried to catch up. They gave the loot on the ground a cursory glance, saw nothing of real value, and didn't bother with it. When you're racing for a clear time record, you don't have a moment to waste on that sort of thing. Just then, a message came in from Lantern Blossom Knight outside the dungeon.
How's it going? Still alive?
God tier player. He really is a goddamn pro.
What are you talking about?
One wave push, one wave push.
One your head. What are you even talking about?
We're speedrunning the dungeon.
Are you kidding me?
Heh, just wait for us to make the broadcast.
Glory players jokingly called making the system announcement getting on TV. Deng Huai stared blankly for a moment before closing the message window. "What's up?" asked Zhuzhou from beside him.
How'd it go?
They're using a wave push strategy on the mobs.
A wave clear?
Zhuzhou was stunned.